My boyfriend, who is 28 years old, and I, who am 24 years old, have been together for 3 years. The main issue in our relationship has been his brother, who is 29 years old. They are extremely close and always have been, and that is great. I think it's sweet how close they are. His brother also has a girlfriend who is 29 years old. My boyfriend, whom we'll call Carter, and his brother, whom we'll call Dan, have always had this dream that when they get older, the two of them will buy a house together, and their girlfriends will move in with them and help contribute to the mortgage and bills. For context, we live in a very expensive area in the United States, hence their reasoning for wanting to buy together, although I think they just don't want to separate from each other and go live independent adult lives. I have never been keen on the idea of living in Carter and Dan's house. Carter's dream has always been to have a life with his brother and to have his girlfriend or wife as a side character, whereas my dream has been to have my boyfriend or husband at the forefront. I want Carter and me to build a life together, not a life with other people. I am at a point in my life where I will either live alone or with a partner. I've had lots of roommates, and I am not interested in continuing to share my space if I can afford not to. It seems like everyone expects me and Dan's girlfriend, Ella, to contribute to the boys' equity. I am much more outspoken than Ella, and have made it very clear that I am not interested in moving into that situation, whereas Ella has remained quiet but told me privately that she isn't interested either. She is 29 years old and wants to get married and have children soon, and said she would prefer to do that in a home she shares with just Dan. Anyways, 3 months ago, my last lease ended. I told Carter I was ready to move in together, and he pushed back because he wanted to buy a house with Dan. I supported him and said, okay, go do it then, and we can move in together when you guys sell the house in a year or two, since I do not want to live in a group setting. He informed me that if he bought a house with Dan, there's a chance they would live there for up to 5 to 10 years, but maybe shorter, depending on what the market does. I told him that will not work for me. I'm not going to wait years to settle down with my partner. Maybe I'm being unreasonable, but I value my privacy. I told him I thought this was an incompatibility between us and was unsure if our relationship would work out if we have such different wants and needs for our futures. I think this freaked him out because he suddenly decided he wanted to move in with just me, and we signed a lease together, with the plan of buying a house together, just the two of us, next spring if everything goes well. Shockingly, it has been about 2 months since we moved into this house, and I can tell he is not happy. He spends most of his time outside the house. Last night I asked him about it, and he admitted that he resents me for taking away his dream of buying a house with his brother. I feel like I gave him an ultimatum by saying I don't see us working out if he essentially commits to 5 to 10 years of living with his brother and not with me. I don't know what to do about his resentment. Are we just incompatible, or is this something we can work to resolve? I am open to other perspectives too if it seems like I am the problem. Any help is appreciated. I've also never lived with a partner before, so the idea of breaking things off if we can't come to a resolution really scares me. I don't know what to do in that situation. Oh, and also, all their family and friends view them as a unit and act like I've committed some major crime by having Carter move in with me and separating them. His brother hates me now too. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You didn't take away his dream. You offered to free him to pursue it. The very tall toddler in your relationship decided to join you in forming a household, but to make you pay for it every single day. Let me be clear, if you do marry him, clearly you are also marrying Dan. Probably not in a conjugal bed, but because as far as Carter and Dan are concerned, they are the couple. You and Dan's girlfriend are accessories. This is not a normal brother relationship, not even in close families. Check on the legal issues surrounding the lease, assuming Carter is on it as well as you. Plan your exit. Comment 2. Wish him luck in finding a wife who will take a back seat to his brotherly comedy film. It's time for you to move on with someone who cares enough to prioritize you. These brothers are both making an unreasonable request for 5 to 10 more years before life gets serious with partners. If you and Ella have a great relationship, maybe you two can be roommates and heal from the breakup, all while Dan and Carter run off into the sunset. Now for the update. I'm back with an update on my last post, where I was feeling pretty left out and pressured in my relationship. A few months have passed since my last update. Carter and I are still living together, but things are super awkward. He's been getting more and more distant, spending most of his weekends with Dan, saying they're working on plans for the house. At first I thought it was just guy stuff, or maybe they were bonding over something else. But no, it's way more than that. I found out that Carter and Dan have been going to open houses without telling me. I was cleaning up one day and found a piece of paper with a bunch of addresses on it. I freaked out and asked Carter about it, and he just brushed it off like it was no big deal. I tried to act like I believed him, but deep down, I knew something was off. One night, I overheard Carter on the phone with Dan. They were talking about financing the house without their girlfriends. I was in shock. Like, how can they even think about that? I felt so betrayed. My birthday came up recently, and I thought it'd be a good idea to have a little dinner at our apartment. I invited Carter and Ella. Ella came early to help set up, and we talked a bit about our partner's plans. We both felt pretty left out and sidelined. During dinner, things were super uncomfortable. Carter kept checking his phone, waiting for Dan to arrive. It was like I wasn't even there. Dan finally showed up late, bringing takeout. Right away, he started talking about the house stuff. I was so fed up. I tried to get Carter's attention, but I accidentally spilled wine on him. It was awkward, but he just brushed it off. Later, though, he snapped at me for interrupting his convo with Dan. I couldn't take it anymore, so I stepped outside for some fresh air. I could hear them laughing inside. It hurt so much. The next week, I decided to confront Carter about his secrecy. I told him I couldn't keep living like this, and he admitted he felt pressured by me to choose between us. We got into a huge fight. After the fight, I found a message on his phone from Dan, talking about potential properties. That just made me feel even more isolated. I went to a family dinner without Carter because he said he was busy with work. My parents were there, and they kept asking why he wasn't with me. I felt like such an odd one out. I mentioned my concerns about Carter and Dan to my sister, and she suggested a surprise intervention. We planned to invite Carter over for dinner so we could all talk. On the night of the dinner, Carter came, but he was really distracted, checking his phone a lot. My sister straightforwardly asked him about his future plans, and he got defensive. He said he had a different vision for his life that didn't include shared living. I called him out for his lack of commitment, and things got real tense at the table. After a heated exchange, he stormed out. I couldn't take it anymore, so I contacted Dan to set up a meeting. We met at a local diner, and I confronted him about his influence over Carter. Dan acted like he was just supporting Carter's dreams, but he admitted he liked the idea of living together without their girlfriends. I laid out my position and explained my desire for a committed relationship with Carter. Dan looked shocked and agreed to talk to Carter about how their plans affected their relationships. A week later, Carter came home to find a surprise party planned by me and my family. I wanted it to be a nice celebration, but things got real chaotic. My family cornered Carter with so many questions about his intentions. He looked overwhelmed and admitted he was confused about what he wanted. I took the chance and told him I couldn't keep waiting for him to choose me over Dan. He left the party frustrated. A few days later, I got a text from Dan. He said he'd talked to Carter and wanted to set up a final meeting to clear the air. At the meeting, I laid down an ultimatum to Carter. I told him it was either a real commitment or nothing. He agreed to think it over. I decided to plan a weekend getaway with friends to show my independence and newfound resolve. I posted pictures from the trip on social media, just living my best life. When I got back, I found Carter waiting in our apartment. He was ready to talk about our future. I told him I was no longer interested in a relationship built on uncertainty. I was done with that. To answer a few questions, the initial conversation about moving in together happened about 6 months ago. My partner and I have known each other for about 4 years. He is my first serious relationship. I have never felt this way in any other relationship. I have no idea why it feels like this. Am I the idiot for considering divorce after my husband's fake Thanksgiving performance? I've been with my husband for 15 years, married for 12, and for the first 13 or 14 years of that, I was so unhappy with the way he treated me. He was, I felt, emotionally hurtful. He would make me feel guilty about things, including going out or doing things with my family. However, when I tried to talk to him about it, he would get defensive. He never wanted to talk about anything. He hated any kind of romance, which I understand not everyone likes romance, but I would go for a hug and he'd pat me on the back. Or if I went for a kiss, he'd roll his eyes, and if I went to hold his hand in public, he'd make a big joke about it and pull his hand away. Throughout those years, I lost any feelings I had for him, to the point where I even asked for a divorce in 2018. But he immediately got upset and I felt so guilty. I have a very guilty conscience. So I said I would stay. Over the next few years, I tried to speak to him several times about how I felt, and it never seemed to go anywhere. He was never a talker, would always get very defensive, and never seemed to care about how I felt. We have a 9-year-old, and I'm so afraid of ruining his life if we get a divorce. So earlier this year, I tried again to talk to my husband, and it seems something clicked with what I said, and he has done a complete turnaround and has been treating me like a queen, the way he said he should have been all these years. However, I still don't feel anything for him. I've tried, and I truly appreciate everything he's been doing, but I don't feel anything for him anymore. He honestly repulses me, and I hate when he touches me. I don't let him know this because I don't want to hurt his feelings. I honestly feel so miserable in this relationship. And now that he's been treating me better, it makes me feel awful for feeling this way. But I don't want to be married to him anymore. I feel dead inside and empty, and I panic thinking about the next time he's going to touch me. I have lost interest in everything I used to love to do, reading, video games, and I can't focus on anything. But I am so afraid of hurting him by telling him this, and I'm afraid of hurting my son with divorce. I don't know what to do. I've been enduring the unhappiness for years, and I feel like I should just continue to endure it so I don't hurt either of them. But I also feel like I'm getting worse, my mental health and my physical health, and I don't know what to do anymore. Should I tell my husband I don't feel anything for him anymore? Any advice would be really appreciated. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He made you fall out of love with him and didn't care about your feelings for 12 years. Now it's too little too late. The damage is done. If you want to be happy, you need to separate. As long as your son gets to still see his father regularly, he may end up preferring it. If his mother is now much happier and he's not living in a bad environment, as it can't be that great if for years he's been mean to you or your mental health is struggling. Kids are resilient. As for him, he's a grown man. You don't owe him any more years. He had plenty and ruined them. Comment 2. Is it possible you were ever in love with him, or were you just in love with the idea of him? You say he's done a full turnaround, and he's treating you well. Is it possible that he's come to realize you were mentally checking out of the relationship? I think he wants to keep you and is doing what he can to repair the damage from years of being himself. Now he's being the man you wanted. I think you need to talk to him now that you have his attention. Decide what you want and talk it out with him. Now for the update. A few days after the last post, I'm sitting on the couch, scrolling on my phone, and my husband's in the kitchen making dinner for our kid. Nothing like a little family bonding, right? Anyway, I see a notification for a family group chat, which includes my husband, my parents, and my sister. Apparently, they're making plans for Thanksgiving dinner. My mom suggests hosting at her house and asks everyone to bring a dish. Typical mom, trying to take all the credit. I text my sister asking if we can talk privately about the situation. She seems supportive and agrees to chat after dinner. After dinner, I step outside to call my sister so our son won't hear anything. Then the next day at work, I get a call from my son's school. They tell me there's been a behavioral incident and that we need to meet with the parents. Great, just what I need. I discuss the situation with my husband over dinner that night. He gets all defensive and blames the school for not handling things properly. Classic move. The following week, I attend the school meeting alone because my husband claims he has work commitments. I'm starting to see a pattern here. The teacher expresses concerns about our son's mood and behavior. After the meeting, I tell my husband about the conversation, but he brushes it off. Just another day in paradise. Thanksgiving arrives, and the family gathers at my parents' house. My husband spends the day charming my family, acting like everything's perfect. It's almost funny how good he is at faking it. During dinner, my dad brings up family traditions, asking if we plan to continue them with our son. I can feel the tension in the air. After dinner, my mom asks if I'm happy, and I dodge the question. Can't let the mask slip just yet. By the end of the night, my husband starts arguing with me in front of my family, accusing me of being distant. My family notices the tension and starts to excuse themselves, leaving this awkward silence hanging in the air. On the drive home, my son asks why we left. I tell him I wasn't feeling well. Classic response. That night, I sit down with my husband and tell him I need to talk. He reacts with disbelief, claiming we can work on things together. He leaves the room, and I hear him slam the bedroom door. Can't say I didn't see that coming. The next morning, I find a text from my sister asking how I'm doing after dinner. A few hours later, I get a call from her saying she wants to come over. When she arrives, she sees me looking like a hot mess. We sit down and she asks if I've thought about what it would mean to separate. The conversation ends with me feeling a sense of clarity about my next steps. Edit. After the conversation with my sister, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. We discussed how to approach the separation, especially considering our son. My sister suggested family counseling for us, so our son can express his feelings in a safe environment. I plan to propose this to my husband. Am I the idiot for questioning my girlfriend's loyalty after finding hotel receipts in her bag? So I have been in a relationship for 2 years with my girlfriend, and things felt like they were getting serious. We met each other's families. I planned on proposing to her in a year. Prior to her, I was in a relationship that went bad, and I told myself I wouldn't do the relationship stuff for a long time. My girlfriend and I had been friends for 2 years before we even got together. I didn't think I'd fall for someone again, but I fell for her. Nothing was forced. It was all natural. She made me feel like I could be myself around her and not be judged. She wanted to be exclusive, which I agreed to, and then we made it official. We would have disagreements here and there, but nothing serious. This year, I would say we had debates that turned into arguments. And to be honest, we both have this thing where we both have to be right. To give a little backstory on her, she doesn't have the best relationship with her father, not really seeing him growing up, so she has daddy issues. As an adult, she reconnected with him, and she says she forgives him, but I don't think she fully forgave him since he still does things that don't include her. Prior to us making it official, she was single for 3 years from a past relationship, and that took a toll on her because she gave that person her all, and it put her into depression when he used and betrayed her. Fast forward, we're in a relationship, and I feel like she's scared to give me her all because she has fears of being hurt again, which in return hurt me by breaking up. Her reasoning is that she doesn't have this feeling and she doesn't know why she feels like this, and that it's not me, it's her. She said she's not happy with herself and wants to figure out what is going on with her and what she really wants, which she's going to talk to someone like a therapist to figure it out. She also said she feels stagnant with her career and doesn't know why she isn't further along. I asked her if there is someone else. She said no, she doesn't want to be with any other man. She told me she loves me and doesn't want to lose me. I told her she has to truly forgive her father and really let it go. She has to truly forgive her ex and really let that go. I have been nothing but good to this woman, doing everything I'm supposed to do as a man and her partner. But this right here hurts. Like, what was the point in meeting each other's families? If you have been feeling like this, why make it seem like everything is okay? Why can't we work on this together? Why can't I help support you through this? I really just don't understand, and I'm lost right now. I just need some advice, y'all. Do I take her at her word? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I think there's a whole lot of sparing your feelings going on in there. You take her explanations at face value, and you have reasonable counterpoints, honestly, but she's hoping you pick up on a point you can't argue, but she doesn't have the heart to say. She's just not into you. Not right now, and maybe not ever again. Let this all the way go. This relationship is unhealthy for you. Comment 2. What do? You move on, man. She broke up with you. Nothing else in your post matters. She ended it. It's over. Done. Yeah, it hurts. Breakups always hurt. You ask, what was the point? What's the point of anything in that case? We can never see the future. We can't even know how we will feel in the future. All we know is the now. Now for the update. I'm back with another update. So a week after my last post, Olivia started going to therapy, which was great, but she's still been kind of distant. Like, it's a good step for her, but I don't know if she's really letting it all out in there or what. She told me she needed to focus on herself, and that just left me feeling unsettled. I mean, I want her to focus on herself, but, like, what about us? So anyway, I figured we needed to reconnect or something, so I planned a little getaway to a cabin in the woods for the weekend. Just the two of us. I figured it would be a good distraction from everything going on. I booked the cabin and everything. When the day of the trip came, I was super excited, but then Olivia texted me and said she couldn't make it. Apparently, her dad had some last-minute thing he wanted her to do. I was bummed, but I didn't want to push her, so I just went to the cabin alone. The cabin was nice, but it felt weird being there by myself. I found this journal I had left behind, filled with all these memories and plans we had made. It reminded me of the good times. I spent a lot of time looking through it and just thinking. The next day, I came home and found a note from Olivia on the kitchen counter. It said she was meeting her dad for lunch and would be back later. That evening, she came home late, and I noticed she seemed a bit off. I asked her about lunch, and she said it was fine, but she quickly changed the subject. While we were eating dinner, I noticed her phone was buzzing a lot with notifications. I glanced at her phone and saw all these messages from someone named M. When I asked her about it, she said it was just a friend from therapy. The following weekend was my birthday, and I invited her to celebrate with my family, hoping it would lighten the mood. My parents made a big dinner, and everyone was really nice to her. But then during dinner, my dad playfully asked about our future, and it just got super awkward. Olivia kept glancing at her phone, and it was just uncomfortable. After dinner, I went outside for some fresh air, and I saw Olivia on the phone. I overheard her saying she would make time soon and it's complicated, and then she noticed me and quickly hung up. She just looked flustered, and I couldn't help but feel suspicious. That night, I confronted her about the call, but she brushed it off as nothing important. The next day, I decided to snoop through her stuff while she was in the shower. I know, not my proudest moment. But I found these receipts in her bag for a hotel in town, dated for the weekend I was at the cabin. I asked her about it, and she said it was for a self-care retreat she was considering. I just didn't buy it. A week later, Olivia suggested we have dinner with her dad again to talk about our relationship. I agreed, hoping this would clear the air. At dinner, her dad asked me what my intentions were with Olivia. I could feel the pressure mounting, and Olivia looked so uncomfortable. After dinner, Olivia and I stepped outside for a moment alone. I brought up the hotel receipts, and she just broke down. She admitted she hadn't been honest with me. She went to the hotel to talk with her ex during a moment of weakness. After that, there was a few days of silence between us. Then Olivia texted me asking to meet in the park to talk. At the park, she apologized and promised to be more transparent. She said she wanted to make things work with us. We agreed to take things slow, but honestly, the tension is still there. It's like, we can say we want to work things out, but there's still this weight hanging over us. I just hope we can get through it together. To answer a few questions, Olivia and I are trying couples therapy soon. We both want a fresh start, but it's tough. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.